Welcome to another NFL BTL Exclusive, where we're going to be talking everything about the AFC right here on the Bookit Sports Podcast Network. You're joined by your two hosts, Krabs and Jovan. We are stoked to go over this conference with you guys. NFL season is right around the corner, and you can expect an NFC one to be released before the season starts. But for now, Jovan, let's keep it to talking about the AFC. I am so stoked for NFL football, my man. I already got crushed in week one of college football, so I've already moved on there. All right, I'm putting all my eggs in the NFL basket for this upcoming season. Very excited to talk about some NFL with you. Why don't we go ahead and start off with some AFC slurpage? They probably deserve it, Jovan. The Chiefs have been an absolute wagon of late. Obviously, they have Patrick Mahomes. They've won the last two Super Bowls in a row. Maybe they win three in a row. Who knows? Before the Chiefs were the dynasty, we had the Patriots in the AFC. And this year, Jovan, the AFC is minus 125 to win the Super Bowl. The NFC plus 105. And yes, you can bet on that type of shit before the season starts. Jovan, I hope you're doing well. Where does your head lie with the AFC heading into the 2024 season?
Just always feels like with the Patriots and the Chiefs, there's that wagon that seems, unbeatable at times. And that it's really a race between everybody else to see who can play them in the AFC Championship. So with the Chiefs coming off back-to-back titles, obviously it's extremely hard to three-peat in any sport, especially in the NFL. So not that we're going to talk about how they're incapable of doing it, but I feel like this year in the NFC, you want to find that team that's going to make a Cinderella run to get there and maybe pull the upset against the Chiefs. Because I feel like the AFC, it's not wide open because the Chiefs are at the top, but I feel like from everywhere below them, it's pretty wide open. So I think there's some chances for a couple teams that we'll talk about. So I'm excited for the AFC. I think it'll be fun. I guess we both are NFC guys with our own teams, but this is probably the year I'm most excited to watch the AFC and some of those teams.
Sure. There's a reason why they're laying minus 125 to win the Super Bowl preseason. Typically, you see a prop like that for the year relatively around even, minus 110 both ways. AFC has been a wagon recently, so maybe a little bit more respect, but minus 125 against the NFC at plus 105. That tells me they're thinking it might be a Chiefs three-peat. Okay, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But we're going to tell you guys some other teams, some sleepers, some squads we think have a legitimate chance to knock off Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs this year. Before we dive in, we'll probably start with the AFC East here in a moment. Make sure you guys are following us wherever you get and listen to your podcast, whether that's on Spotify or Apple Music, or if you're watching on YouTube, drop a like and let us know in the comments who you think is winning the AFC for this upcoming season. All right, let us know. I'm going to go through the YouTube comments here. And if you guys would rather watch our beautiful faces up here instead of watching on Spotify and Apple Music, you can watch on YouTube at Bookit Sports. Okay, we also have a live show every day during the week talking about bets and winners for the people at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in at Bookit Sports on YouTube and Twitch. But for now, Jovan, let's focus on the AFC. All right, I talked about how great they are and how they're supposed to be obviously the winners in the better conference this season. Why don't we go ahead and start with an interesting division in the AFC this year? Probably wouldn't call it its best division, the AFC East. Obviously, the Bills and the Jets are two squads who can make some noise this year, Jovan. I don't know where your head's at, but we can kind of go right for the jugular here. Who do you think wins the AFC East for this upcoming season?
I think it is the Jets, but part of it is because the schedule they have in front of them for a team that, maybe you can be a little worried about Aaron Rodgers coming back from his injury, but that defense is damn good, and that's certainly a thing you can lean your head on and rely on for the rest of the season. Schedule's not too difficult for them. So, I like the Bills. We'll talk about them a little bit. The Dolphins are going to be there too, but I think it is the Jets. First year with Rodgers, first year in a while, they've been favored to win the division, so they're my pick.
Okay. Going with the squad, who I believe will be going from worst to first, if they can pull that off. And they're the favorites, I think, to win that division. Or was it the Patriots who ended up in last year?
Probably last, right?
Somehow they were even worse. Yep. Yeah. Than the Aaron Rodgers-less Jets. Well, either way, pretty crazy seeing the Jets as the favorites to win this division, I would say, at least, after how last year played out, right?
Yeah.
Some serious respect. I do like the Jets this season. I do think they'll make the playoffs, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. But that's not who I'm picking to win the AFC East. I'm picking a team who nobody believes in, a team who everybody's gotten caught back in the last couple of seasons. I know I have, and probably everybody listening has at some point. But we've all been too bought into the Bills over the last couple seasons, and obviously that was not the right decision. I'm going to take them this year when nobody wants them. I'm going to take them this year when Stephon Diggs is gone, when they're saying Whatever we were doing before isn't working. We got to try some new things this season. Let's get rid of our prima donna. But I thought they were getting some line respect as well. Only a plus 195, not much shorter than the Jets to win this division when nobody wants them this year, right? People are done with the Bills at this point. They're done with Josh Allen. They're done with the interceptions. They're done with that team folding when the lights are the brightest, right? Nobody wants to back them. Well, I'll do it for him. And I'll back Josh Allen, who enters this season the healthiest, the best, both mentally and physically, that he's entered an NFL season in his career. So it's pretty clear he's taken it very seriously this season. We all know it pretty much comes on his shoulders here, the Bills' entire season with how he plays, and he's got to limit the turnovers. But I know we're pretty high on Josh Allen to limit those interceptions this season, Jovan, and I've got the Bills to win this division at plus 195. I think they finally do it here.
Yeah, I won't say a word about it because we're both on the same page with the Bills. I think that's a division where you certainly get at least 2 playoff teams, and I think the Bills are one of them.
Yep. I've got the Bills and the Jets both making the playoffs from this division, Jovan. The Bills at plus 195 and the Jets minus 175 to make the playoffs. That's some crazy respect there with the Jets at minus 175 to make the playoffs. That's absurd. The Bills also, if you wanted to take them to make the playoffs, are also hanging at minus 175, Jovan. To win the division, you're taking the Jets at plus 160. I'll take the Bills with a little bit more value, I guess, at plus 195, but we've got the same 4 squads going to the playoffs from the AFC East. Let me ask you, because I hinted at this earlier, Josh Allen, his interceptions, you're taking that in your goat well for this upcoming season. Why do you think Josh Allen does limit those turnovers in 2024 when that's like the easiest, most simple angle to back him to throw picks, right? He's led the league in picks every fucking season, it feels like.
Yeah, everyone. He's coming off a year where he just threw 18. So, seeing the line at 12.5 may shock some people, and I think it looks awfully easy. But I believe that this offense for the Bills is kind of a breath of fresh air this year. And I'm not saying they're going to put up ridiculous numbers and be like Chiefs-level explosive, but you lose Stephon Diggs, which personally, I know Stephon Diggs is great, but I think that's addition by subtraction. You lose Gabe Davis. I don't think he really fit well in that offense. So, again, addition by subtraction. And this is the first year I think the Bills can confidently go into the season with a crutch of a good run game, because every year it feels like the Bills were either going into the year with like Devin Singletary or a couple of like running backs in a committee where you didn't really feel confident that they were going to give you any like bit of a run game, but they were going to be there if you needed them. And this is the first year with James Cook. I feel like it's not all on Josh Allen's shoulders. So I like James Cook a lot this year. If you look at a lot of Josh Allen's interceptions, especially last year, but really throughout his whole career, a lot of them are forcing the ball to Stephon Diggs, who would pout if he didn't get the ball. A lot of them were miscommunications with Gabe Davis, which we saw a lot of last year, and those are eliminated. I feel like this year, along with like the James Cook run game, you're going to get like Curtis Samuel, who's a gadget play guy, short play guy, Shakir, same deal, and then they do have a guy to stretch the field in Keon Coleman, but a guy who's a really good contested catch guy. It's the one thing he does well. So like I feel like this offense for Josh Allen is much more conducive to him keeping the ball and not throwing it as much to the other team. So yeah, that less than 12.5 interceptions made my go well.
Well, I hope you're right. As a Bills backer this season, as a guy who still believes and has not heard any bell and still thinks the Bills and Josh Allen could do something, I'm going to back them once again this season, and I will be tailing your go well, obviously, and taking that Josh Allen less than pick square for a season-long lineup on Prize Picks. For a book play for a future for this upcoming season in this division, you were just talking about, my guy on the Bills there, the team I'm backing. How about I talk about a guy on your Jets who you think win this division, who I'm backing? Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is a guy who should absolutely thrive with a healthy Aaron Rodgers back there. Let's hope he can make it the entire season, right? We can't really cap that. But I think Garrett Wilson leads the league in receiving yards in 2024, Jovan. I think Garrett Wilson could be an absolute monster out there on the field. Devontae Adams type vibes early on in the Packers, where it's pretty clear Aaron Rodgers has his guy. And Garrett Wilson has an opportunity to absolutely dominate this season on the field against not the greatest secondaries in the NFL. The Jets' schedule is very favorable, in my opinion. And I thought Garrett Wilson was getting some serious respect. If you look at some of those names who have the shortest odds to lead the league in receiving yards, you've got guys like, obviously, Stephon Diggs, who are up there ahead of Garrett Wilson. You've got guys like Tyreek Hill and obviously Justin Jefferson and all these big-name dudes, Jamar Chase. And then you got Garrett Wilson kind of snuck right up in there, right behind all those goats at plus 1,400. And I think that's for good reason. I think we see Garrett Wilson eclipse 1,000 yards with ease this season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him lead the NFL in receiving yards with a healthy Aaron Rodgers against, teams that really don't scare me much on their schedule. I think they got a pretty easy schedule this season. I do like the Jets, just not to win the division. I've got them to make the playoffs, but I do think Garrett Wilson at plus 1,400 is worth a sprinkle to lead the league in receiving yards. He's going to be an absolute menace and the clear 1A choice for Aaron Rodgers this season.
Yeah, if Rodgers can stay healthy, I mean, that's a great value bet, especially because their schedule is not just easy, but they play a lot of porous secondaries, especially in those games against some weaker teams, let's call it. So I think he'll have plenty of chances to absolutely go off, especially second half of the season. They start a run of some really bad secondaries, to say the least.
Yeah. Garrett Wilson season, if everybody can stay healthy and do their jobs, I feel like he could absolutely go on a tear this upcoming season. Okay. Any week 1 games in this division that are sticking out to you? Any games involving any squads in this division? Maybe it's the Bills or the Jets that we mentioned earlier. Maybe it's the Patriots or Dolphins, 2 squads we haven't talked about much, who we're obviously not very high on. Any games in week 1 that you're looking at, Jovan? You're thinking something weird might happen here?
Yeah, that Jets 49ers game on Monday night is massive because I feel like that is a set the tone for the season type game for the Jets. They probably would have had last year. The injury obviously kind of changed everything, even though they did win the game Monday night against the Bills. But this feels like the chance. I know there's a stat floating out there. I don't know if you have the exact number, but the Super Bowl loser has not done incredibly well, ATS, in their first game of the next season. So, I mean, not that I like the Jets for that reason, but it's, I guess, another reason to take them. But I think that's a game where the Jets go into San Fran and make some noise. And especially with that defense or 2 really good defense going out of it, this is a chance for them to kind of stamp their season early on.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's going to be a crazy must-see game. Monday Night Football, week 1, Jets, 49ers. Maybe we see Aaron Rodgers and the Jets pull off an upset. Wouldn't that be something?
That could be something.
That might launch them right to first place in that division. You'd love that, wouldn't you? Sure.
Yeah. A little bit.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Well, I don't want to leave the Dolphins and the Patriots hanging. Any thoughts on those 2 squads? Obviously, the Patriots are going to suck this year. I'm not expecting much, if at all, anything from that team. I think they're going to absolutely stink and maybe have the worst record in the NFL. The Dolphins, on the other hand, I feel like most people would expect us to be gassing them up. Most people would be expecting us to have them in the playoffs. We're both pretty down on the Dolphins this season, Jovan. I feel like the book might be out on them this year. You got some squads having a full year of film on that McDaniel offense that's really shined in recent weeks and last couple seasons here. But I feel like the book might be out on their rushing attack. Are we going to see the Dolphins take a step back in 2024?
I don't know if they're going to take a step back. It feels like, to me, they're going to be a similar team to they were last year, just maybe on the other side of the playoff cut. Because one thing that I really don't love about the Dolphins, the offense is fun, the offense is great. It just really feels like almost there's too many weapons, which is crazy to say because they have so many different directions that they can take on any given week, which I think, to be honest, hurts them a little more than it helps them because we haven't seen them when we get down to the nitty-gritty against really good defenses. It kind of feels like that offense goes in without a plan because they have the luxury of having a Tyreek Hill that can do 50 different things. They have a Jalen Waddle who's great when he's healthy. They have Tua, who's one of the more accurate guys in the league and can get the ball to all these different guys. They have 3 running backs now that can go off for 100 yards, I would say, in any different game. I just don't like that for this offense personally, which kind of scares me from the – I don't know, for the long term of the season, because we haven't really seen a firm direction from them. So as much as I like some of the guys on that roster, everybody's on Devon A-Chain this season, and I'm right along there with them. You're probably going to see some regression from Mostert. Maybe he steps up and is the guy. They have Waddle. If he stays healthy, big year. They even got Jonnu Smith, who I think is a sleeper to keep out for. But I just don't know if they can ever get over that hump. That's what scares me the most about them.
Yeah, when the lights are brightest, it's that defense that costs them games, in my opinion. And we saw them have the better of the luck last season. I feel like in 2024, that luck might run out. And we might see that defense cost them a playoff spot. Pretty low on the Dolphins this season. I still think they could have a winning record potentially or be hovering around 500, but you won't see me backing them. Although I do respect McDaniel and that offense, and I think he's doing the right things. That defense, I think, is going to end up holding that squad back. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. And the Patriots are not worth our time right now.
I will
Okay.
say about the Dolphins too, one of the things that scares me the most is they always seem to fold when the lights are the brightest and it means the most. The end of their season, they go, these are their last 6 games in Green Bay, and this is Thanksgiving week. So in Green Bay in the cold, they play at home against the Jets, on the road against the Texans. They host the 49ers. They go to Cleveland right after Christmas. Then they go to the Jets. So for a team that has never really gotten over that hump, they're going to need these games for playoff position and to maybe get in the playoffs in the first place. That is an end of the season, especially in some cold weather, that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, you cannot script a worse end of the season for them. Looking at that schedule, brutal. Going to take the Miami fucking Dolphins, who are used to that nice warm weather down there, and put them in some of those games. Good fucking luck.
Yeah, Green Bay and Cleveland are tough.
Good fucking luck. I'll be fading the Dolphins in all those spots. All right. Let's move. Let's groove. I don't want to spend too much time on the AFC East. We made it pretty clear our thoughts and the squads we're liking. Stock up on the Bills and the Jets, and stock down overall on the Dolphins and the Pats. Okay. Let's move and groove and talk about the AFC West a little bit here. All right. And this one should not really take long. I mean, the Chiefs absolutely dominate this division, and this division is not great, in my opinion. It's kind of honestly pretty weak that the Chiefs just get to play in this division and dominate other teams like the Broncos, the Raiders, the Chargers. I mean, come on. This might be the worst division in football, and we're talking about the AFC being elite. Jovan, any chance we see a team other than the Chiefs, who are minus 260 to win this division, pull off, right, and get that win in the AFC West? No chance, right?
Yeah, no shot. Not happening. And I will be so overcome with joy if that happens. But that would be like Christmas, seeing one of these teams come out and be better than the Chiefs. But as long as Patrick Mahomes has working limbs, the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos are not coming close to winning the AFC West.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. Any Prize Picks season long squares or angles that you're looking to target in this division? Or are there any futures you're looking to target for any of these squads, maybe not involving the Chiefs? I don't really have many. This division's pretty simple, if I could say so myself, but there's got to be one guy you're thinking of, Jovan. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy that I kind of think is being forgotten about a little bit that I don't mind investing in is Davante Adams, because just in general, like the Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos offenses there's a lot of variance, I think, in them. And the one, I guess, constant is Davante Adams. And everybody's scared of the quarterback situation, which is 100% fair. But if we're talking about Aiden O'Connell versus Gardner Minshew is a guy that last year was in Indianapolis, did a great job in that Steichen offense, and especially did a great job getting the ball to their number one playmaker, which was Michael Pittman at the time. So I wouldn't be too scared of Davante Adams. And I know a lot of people are just scared because of the general question marks around that offense. Maybe it's not just Gardner Minshew. It's just the Raiders have not been very good. Now they're missing a running back, even though I think Samir White's going to be fine. But for one, out of the quarterbacks in the AFC West, with the weapons they have, I most trust the connection between Minshew and Davante Adams easily out of any of the other guys. So that's a guy I would not mind. I've tried to target him in some fantasy drafts. I think I've barely missed out on him a couple times, but I think he's going to be good as ever.
What about Cortland Sutton on the Broncos? I know they got Bo Nix, right? He got announced as the starter. That surprised a lot of people. Didn't really surprise me. Sean Payton drafted him for a reason. That's his guy, for better or for worse. We'll see how it works out. Sean Payton's a dick, and Sean Payton has not been great of late, but Sean Payton is typically right more often than he's not, at least from me following his coaching career, and he definitely knows more football than me, unfortunately, although it might be close. Sean Payton found his guy. He's been waiting patiently, and he made a move to get him. And you know what? If I had to bet on if them, finding success and him being the guy, ends up playing out that way, I would say yes, but it might not be this rookie season. Am I a Bo Nix guy? I could say you could classify me as a Bo Nix guy, mainly because he's got Sean Payton backing him, who I think, saw him and could put him plug and play, pretty much the readiest guy to go here in week one out of any of the young QBs. But I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I think you're going to see the Broncos have a couple upsets this season and probably a couple losses they shouldn't have. But I do think Cortland Sutton is a name, Jovan, that really could benefit from, Sean Payton going out, getting this guy in Bo Nix, a team who's going to be more competitive this season, but still not winning a bunch of games and being ahead in a bunch of games. They're going to need to hit Cortland Sutton up early and often. to come back and be competitive in some of these contests. Are you buying into Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton potentially this season?
Yeah, I mean, I like Cortland Sutton. I think there's some upside to do with that Broncos offense because, I agree with you in the sense that there's going to be some games that they win and some performances that they have that are very surprising in good ways and very surprising in pretty bad ways too. So I think it's going to be maybe an up and down season. The one thing that I guess we were talking about on BTL, so I was looking into it. One thing that scares me about Cortland Sutton, other than the elephant in the room, which is the fact the guy can't stay healthy, is he's got some tough matchups, especially early in the season, which I feel like if I'm Bo Nix and I'm somebody in that offense, I would want him to kind of get settled in early, and he welcomes the Seahawks, Steelers. Bucks are not a tough defense, but the Jets, those are he's going to be seeing 3 of, I don't know, you could argue the top 5 corners in the league one-on-one for the top 4 weeks or first 4 weeks of the season. So that's what scares me, but I do think the upside is going to be there for the rest of the season. So he could be a big boom or bust guy, maybe win you a week in fantasy when they're playing some softer defenses. But I don't want to let Javonte Williams get slept on either because people forget. I mean, he was dealing with the ACL comeback season last year, so he wasn't super productive. But now I think after a full year of that, we've seen this time and time again with running backs. They struggle the first season coming back, and then second year after they kind of explode and are back to what they can be of their normal self. I wouldn't be shocked to see that either, especially with somewhat of a established pass game, you would hope.
Okay. Do not let the Broncos get hot, Jovan. It's pretty clear we've got the Chiefs as the winner of this division. I mean, come on. Minus 260. Give me a break. They're going to find a way to win it. The rest of the teams stink. Who are you picking to finish in second place? I'm assuming it's the Raiders by hearing you talk.
Yeah, I think it's the Raiders. I think them and that, honestly, all 3 of those teams, I think will be relatively close. So there's not a strong lean for me. But yes,
I'm worried about the Harbaugh transition to the NFL. I need to see it with him and Herbert. I think they come in last place in this division. I think it then goes the Raiders, the team you were just gassing up, whose offense might be a little bit better than people think, but I think their defense is really going to hold them back. And then I'll go with the Broncos to finish in second place behind Sean Payton and Bo Nix legacies. Maybe they get hot at the end of the season once he's got some more games under his belt. But I would not sleep on the Broncos to finish in second in this division. I am pretty high on Bo Nix, and I think he'll be a pretty solid starter in this league for years to come. It might just not be early on this season. And like you were saying, they've got some tough matchups off the rip as well. Okay. Yeah. Either way, it's the Chiefs winning this division, and we're going to go about our day. Now, any week 1 matchups that you're eyeing in this division, obviously you've got the Ravens at the Chiefs for the season opener coming up here on Thursday. Let's talk about that one. The Ravens are getting 3 points. Yeah. Do we think the Chiefs, once again, when the lights are the brightest, they show up and take care of business, or is it going to be the Ravens? Maybe at +3, grabbing the points.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs come out firing because people forget, or maybe they don't, last year to start off their title defense. I know they were, I think, down Kelsey in that game and maybe a couple other important pieces, but the Lions strolled into Kansas City and beat them. And honestly, that game was a little more dominant than it seemed like at the final score. So the last thing I would want to do is be in a spot if I'm the Ravens where, I'm trying to get my lick back from the AFC Championship, sure, which that's a whole different conversation. They sold that game, but somehow the Chiefs are going to have some extra added motivation coming off of back-to-back titles in week 1. And their defense was fantastic last year, and now they're going to be going up against what I think is the most vulnerable offensive line and I guess offense as a whole that the Ravens have had in quite some time. So, yeah, that's a game that I will be paying a lot of attention to. Obviously, everybody will because it's the first NFL game, but I'm super excited to watch that.
No bets?
Chiefs.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'll take the Ravens at +3. I know their line's going to suck. I know their offense might take a step back this season, but I don't really give a shit. It's Andy Reid and the Chiefs, who every year they start out slower and slower. Every year it takes them more and more to get going. But once they do, God, they're unbeatable and they're crazy good. But once again, I think they start out slow this season. And I'm going to stick with the Ravens here at +3 to get their revenge. It might be square. It might be public. I don't give a hoot. I'm fading the Chiefs coming off a Super Bowl win, and I'm taking the Ravens at +3. And by the time people are listening to this podcast, Jovan, they might not be able to even get 3. It might be a 2.5. So I'm still going to trust my gut here and back the nasty underdog in the first game of the season, but I would not mind adding the under to my card as well in that game because I'm with you. I think the Chiefs defense has really shined. People aren't talking about that enough. They got a lot of their guys coming back. They'll have some success against the Ravens for sure, and I could definitely see this game going under. All right?
Yeah.
Might not be able to agree on a side, Jovan, but I think we can agree on that. No points, limited points in the NFL opener on Thursday. Okay. Perfect. What about the Raiders and the Chargers? These two stinkers of teams play each other in week 1. Who wins that contest?
I have no clue, to be honest with you. I want to see like just how, I don't know if dominant's the right word, but I want to see just how physical the Chargers are going to come out and establish the run like Harbaugh wants to do. Because I mean, it's not a terrible team in the Raiders to do that against. So I don't know. That one's such a weird game. I don't know if I have a pretty stark lean on it. I don't know if you do, but
yeah, I mean, that game sucks. You've got the Chargers, new coach, trying out some new things, losing Keenan Allen, laying 3 at home, which pretty much means to a simpleton, this is pretty much a coin flip game, right?
Yeah.
With the spread being 0 on a neutral site. It's probably got to be the Raiders on the spread here at +3, as crazy as that is, but I'm not buying into the Harbaugh hype, and I do like Gardner Minshew, like you were talking about earlier, Jovan. I think that guy's a winner. He's got moxie. He's got grit. He overperformed overall last year. I know he's very injury-prone, but he did his job last season, and he got no credit for it. Nobody gives a shit. It's Gardner Minshew. He's a weirdo. Well, I think he's a pretty solid quarterback, at least a pretty solid fill-in. He gives me Heineke vibes. He might even be better, right? That's probably why he's starting games right now. But the same kind of character where, doesn't have crazy arm talent, not, Lamar Jackson on the fucking ground using his legs, but the guy figures it out and makes plays when they need it most and wins football games. Like Gardner Minshew finds a way to win football games.
He does.
If you don't know that by now, you have not watched enough games. This guy's a winner. He's a winner.
Yep.
Give me the Raiders +3. I think he finds a way to get a win on the road there, and I don't want to buy into Harbaugh yet.
Yeah, I kind of do want to buy in a little bit. That game just feels like super physical to me. I'm not saying I'm taking the Chargers, but maybe that's the under. Game that's super physical. Chargers are going to be running the ball probably a lot more than they should with Justin Herbert at quarterback. I mean, I'm kind of down on that.
I'm down to fade those two offenses, that's for sure. I think that under might be a little too easy, but we will see. Fair. Very curious to see where that thing moves around by Sunday. For now, we wait. All right, but definitely lean that under, and I lean the Raiders as well. All right, let's keep moving and grooving here. That is enough of talking about the AFC West because we already know who's winning that division. It's the Chiefs. Let's move and groove and talk about the AFC North. I'm way more excited about this one, Jovan. I think the AFC North is the best division in football this season. Yeah. They're legit. Who do you have winning the AFC North in 2024?
Go with the Browns.
Whoa.
Team that kind of came out of nowhere last year with Joe Flacco after Deshaun went down, and they had their Linsanity run where Flacco was amazing. The offense was electric, dynamic, and the defense was the defense. I mean, that's one of the best defensive units of football. You can certainly argue the best. I think by the numbers, they were, they ranked first in most categories, so you could definitely argue the best. So coming into this year, I'm excited for a full year of Deshaun Watson. So he was actually more effective in that offense than people seem to think. So I'm buying in a little bit. And when you have the crutch of that defense, I think it's better. So we talked about the Ravens, where I think this is the most vulnerable that roster has been in, definitely in Lamar's entire tenure, definitely the worst offensive line he's had to play against. So I'm interested to see, I don't know, what that offense does. And obviously defensively, they have a massive loss there in the scheme department. So the Ravens I'm a little down on. I do have their under win total. The Bengals I'm pretty high on too. I think a lot of people are, and I think you are as well. So I think this is just going to be a weird division race where we see 3+ playoff teams out of this division.
Yeah, I like the Browns pick. I don't know if they make the playoffs. There might be too many teams from this division, but I do like the Browns pick, and I like that angle of backing, as much as I hate to say it, Deshaun Watson after last season when he got hurt, and I potentially thought they could do something, but kind of blew it, got hurt, and the season was caked anyways. Why not back him again this season? Go back to him again, Jovan. I like the Browns at +450, but the problem is you're going against the future Super Bowl champions here, Jovan, and that's the Bengals.
Yeah.
That's the Bengals. Plus 145 to win the AFC North after coming in last place last season and being an absolute joke of a team, pretty much, the good chunk of the last 2 seasons after going to the Super Bowl out of nowhere, right? Where's this team been? Where have the Bengals been? Where's Joe Burrow been? Where's that O-line been that just keeps getting worse? Well, they're making a comeback in 2024, okay? If you couldn't tell by Joe Burrow's bald-ass blonde head, he wants the attention. He needs it. He's starving for it because they gave him a little taste his rookie year, right? And in recent seasons, he has not been able to live up to it at all. And mainly it's been because of injuries. But, heading in healthy to this upcoming season, I am buying as much Bengals stock as I can at plus 145 to win this division. Whatever you could take them at to make the playoffs. I think they're minus 260 still. Sure, parlay that with something. They're making it, okay? This Bengals team is going to be out for blood. They're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder. Everybody's forgetting about this Bengals squad. They're forgetting about Joe Burrow. And what I love the most about this team heading into this season, you've got Jamar Chase on a contract year. Jamar Chase bitching like a prima donna. I don't care. Let him bitch. He'll be out there in week 1. He'll be out there catching 10 passes a game. He'll be out there getting 15 targets a game because that's what Jamar Chase does when he's healthy and on the field with Joe Burrow. You guys are forgetting. You're letting your recency bias from recent seasons of the Bengals being the Bengals and stinking it up get in your head and cloud your judgments. We're forgetting how good this team was when they were healthy. And we also don't know that they have the best O-line that Joe Burrow has ever had in his time in Cincy for this upcoming season. Their O-line is going to be good. Not great, not elite, maybe not even above average, but good for the first time in Joe Burrow's career. And I am stoked to see how that unfolds. That's only going to help this offense 10x. He's going to have some time to throw the football, find Jamar Chase wide fucking open down the field. I'm loving this Bengals squad. And at plus 145, after finishing in last place last year, now they're the favorites to win this division. I fucking bet. That is absurd. That is absolutely absurd. The respect they're getting on the odds to win this division after coming in last place. Give me a break. Guys, when the odds makers are talking, sometimes all you got to do is pick up the phone and fucking listen. This is one of those cases. All right, buy stock now in the Bengals before it's too late. You're going to see them return to their elite form when they went to a Super Bowl only a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the benefits of their finish last year is the schedule. And I would say it's never really an easy schedule when you're playing in the AFC North because it's a grind getting through all 6 of those in-division games or more than that. But yeah, I would say got the most friendly schedule out of all the rest of the teams. So that's good.
Yes, they did. And that could literally be the difference, Jovan, down the stretch. Okay.
Literally could.
So I've got the Bengals plus 145 to win this division. You've got the Browns at plus 450. I don't think I've heard a single other person mention the Browns this entire offseason. Crazy. Talk about a sleeper. They might be getting talked about less than my Bengals. Wild. Either way, most people would probably be pretty shocked that not one of us has the Ravens up there. We'll talk about them here in a moment because you and me still think they both make the playoffs, right? The Ravens at minus 260. Yeah. They're still going to make it.
I think the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals all make the playoffs. And one of the reasons that I'm taking the Browns, or I like the Browns in the first place, is because I think there's a very good chance that is a 3-way tie late in the season. So I want to take the team with the value, and I would say the team that I feel most confident about their defense going into the season, and that would be the Browns. So give me a little bit of the value there and what I think is going to be a really close race.
That's fair. That's more than fair. I mean, are we forgetting what Myles Garrett just does on a normal basis? This guy's a fucking machine.
Absurd.
He's an absolute machine. Nobody talks about him. I haven't heard his name one time since the season ended. We just forget Myles Garrett exists in the offseason. I don't get it. The guy's a top 2 defender in the NFL. He might be the best.
Yeah.
He might be the best. Nobody gives a shit. He's on the Browns. That defense will be good again. I think the Browns is a great pick. I'm being soft. I'm taking the Bengals at plus 145. You've got the real value play at plus 450. I think both those teams are going to shock some people and overperform this upcoming season. Okay. You talk about the Browns winning the division, Jovan, and you've got the Ravens and Bengals still going to the playoffs. Sure. I've only got 2 teams in this division making the playoffs, but I would not be surprised one bit if we saw 3. But as of right now, I've got the Bengals winning the division, and I've got the Ravens making the playoffs. I think the Browns will be hanging around until the very end, but we'll talk about it here in a moment, why I don't have more teams from this division going to the playoffs. Okay, for now, let's talk about any Prize Picks season long squares or any futures or angles like that in this division, Jovan, that we're looking to target. I'll get it started off right now. Jamar Chase is catching at least 100 passes this season. That I know. And he's at 97.5 on the books or on Prize Picks for his season-long line. He's catching 100 passes plus. It's going to be easy. I went back and looked at how he did and performed when Joe Burrow was healthy under center. And most people would assume, he was, all over the place, dropping, 200-yard games here or there, having a couple games a season where he's got 15, 20 yards. No, he's actually pretty consistent and reliable, to be honest, when Joe Burrow's under center, at least in Jamar Chase's career. It's pretty much like a guarantee you're getting 13 to 14 targets at Jamar Chase, and he's probably going to catch 8 to 10 of them. It's absolutely absurd if you go back and look at the stats and just watching the games for the Bengals when they're healthy, Jovan, when Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are out there. I don't know if a single duo in the NFL have more chemistry than those two gentlemen, to be completely frank, watching him run routes out there. Jamar Chase, in a contract year, Jamar Chase out to prove to the rest of the league that he is legit and the best receiver in football, is going to put people on notice this season. And he's catching 100 passes with ease.
Yeah, I like that. Especially love that he's going to get fired up, I think, by just getting paid, which I think is not the answer for a lot of guys. But once he does finally put the pen to paper for that extension, I think Jamar Chase is a guy that you can look back and say this is the year for the Bengals and that offense to get everything together, stay healthy, and really go for it. So I like that square from you, Krabs.
We'll see. Best O-line they've had in the last couple of years. That could help Jamar Chase get open as well. Lord knows he needs it. What else in this division, Jovan? Any other players you're looking to target or gas up?
Yeah, I mean, you brought this one up, so I mean, I'll credit you, but that Amari Cooper to get just under 1,000 yards, love that. Love it. Because you want to talk about what this offense was, I don't know, all of last year. I mean, Amari Cooper had some big games. Like, he had the crazy game against the Texans, which, like you pointed out, skewed the yards a little bit. He was not nearly as good as that pace would have indicated, but he was still great. And the thing that changed drastically with Joe Flacco in there instead of Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco's guy for the majority of the season seemed to be David Njoku. And Deshaun Watson, for whatever reason, doesn't love to utilize him nearly as much. Amari Cooper is his guy, as he should be. And Amari Cooper is one of the most disrespected, underrated superstar wide receivers in all of football. I don't know if people just don't like to pay attention to him because he's in the Browns offense when the Browns defense is really the story or whatever it is. But Amari Cooper is going to have a ridiculous season with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. So I would like all shares. I think the Browns are going to be, like I said, in the mix to win this division, and they're going to be really good. Amari Cooper is going to be a damn big reason part of it. Like, I love everything Amari Cooper, and I have made my best effort to get him in multiple fantasy drafts. But as far as the Prize Pick squares go for the NFL season, I'm fully in.
Yep. Well, he's plus 115 on the books to get 1,000 yards this season. I feel like that's a really good look if you're not looking to play him in a Prize Picks lineup for the season. Either way, Amari Cooper is getting 1,000 yards this year. Okay? Lock it in accordingly. All right, he's going to fucking do it once again. He hit that number with ease last year, and sure, like you said, had a couple bullshit games in there, had a 300-yard game in there, absolutely absurd against a team that kind of gave up there at the end. But we didn't even see Deshaun Watson get more than 10 games in with Amari Cooper last season. He was working with fucking Joe Flacco. Give the guy a break. Come on. Yeah. And after Deshaun got hurt again last year, I'm willing to bet he stays healthy this upcoming season. And I think it's going to be a huge aspect of that offense, feeding Amari Cooper once again down the field. We forget how good this dude is. I don't know why or how. It's probably because he's up there in Cleveland like Myles Garrett, like we were talking about earlier. It makes no sense. Go look at his stats the last couple of years. Dude's a baller. He's a top 10 receiver, top 15 receiver easily. Gets no respect. Any other futures? Any teams in this division you're looking to maybe tail or fade on any, win futures or anything like that?
Yeah, I do have the Ravens under 10.5 wins locked in.
Wow.
So, I mean, earmuffs for Goots. But
sure,
like I talked about, like, this is the most vulnerable Ravens roster I think we've seen in a while. And they're coming off of a year where, they had Lamar and MVP version. I think a lot of that was because of the team they had around them. They had a really good offensive line, obviously a really good defense, which is always going to be the story for that Baltimore team. But this year feels a little different because that offensive line, it's not even the fact that it's just not as good as it's been previous years. I think it's like a genuine concern. And the sentiment from their camp seems to be sharing the same sentiment that I have. So, like, I think with that team and with that offensive line, Lamar becomes less efficient. The run game, even though they're bringing in Derrick Henry and then they're going to have Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell coming back healthy, I feel like that gets a little less efficient. And a lot of these games, I think, for them are going to turn into what the AFC Championship was. Now, credit to the Chiefs defense because they're not going to see that every week, but I think Lamar is going to have to win you games with his arm. And pretty much any time we've asked Lamar Jackson to do that, he hasn't done it. So I'm a little down. It stems from the offensive line, but the defense too. I mean, losing the centerfold of that defense is huge from a scheme perspective. You're making a little DC change. So there's a little, I think, to not like about the Ravens on both sides of the ball. So I will be selling them.
Well, I'll say this because we both had the Ravens to still make the playoffs, even if you're locking in the Ravens under 10.5 wins at plus 100, which is a crazy middle you're trying to fuck there, but I respect it. Okay, and I do think it could work out. When the Ravens finally do something, and they will, there's no way that the football gods don't give Lamar Jackson one chance at one point. He will get his shot. He's got some time. But when the Ravens finally do something, Jovan, when the Ravens finally push through and with this squad and with Lamar, when they finally get to a Super Bowl or make a run, it's not going to be when they lock up this division early on in their regular season. It's going to be when they make the playoffs as a wild card team and get hot, right? It's going to be when people least expect it. It's going to be when the Ravens are getting discredited and hated on and people are taking the Bengals and the Browns to win the division instead of the Ravens. It's kind of feeling like, it's coming at some point. Maybe it's this year. Maybe this is the year, in my opinion, because, look, I know the Ravens are going to get at least one shot. There's no way the football gods don't give them one. They will. Maybe it's this season when we're all hating on them most. Now, I think the angle is right here. You see the Bengals or the Browns, either one of those two squads win this division when nobody expects it, and the Ravens kind of fold and nobody's buying into them even more heading into the playoffs. And then you see the Ravens kind of pick it up in the postseason when nobody expects it. I could so see it. But futures-wise and regular season-wise, if you're taking the Ravens to win this division, if you're taking the Ravens over on their win total, I just don't think it's a great look. I think you got to go more of a value play here with the other three really solid teams, at least two. The Steelers, they're kind of on their island this season. I don't know if I'm buying into Russell Wilson at this hour, right, at this age. Yeah. Come on. I don't know if I could buy into Russ in this economy. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
But the Bengals and the Browns, one of those two teams is going to give the Ravens more than a run for their money. One of those two teams is going to win the division. But maybe that means this year is the year the Ravens, who suck the most they have in the regular season in years past, who just sneak in barely to the playoffs. Maybe this will be the year they finally go on a run. I want that on record.
Yeah.
Okay, because
I think
nobody wants the Ravens this year.
Yeah,
nobody.
For me, the Ravens, I think there's a very good chance they go on a late season run. The problem with that is, like, my main concern is the offensive line and the quick scheme change of the defense. And look at their start to the season. They go to Kansas City, they come back home, play the Raiders, but then they go back to Dallas, they host the Bills, they go to Cincinnati. That's like a really tough 4 at least of your first 5 games to be figuring all that stuff out. So, like, I think there's a chance that they kind of sputter out, even if they were to pull the upset like week 1 against the Chiefs. I think there's a chance they sputter out early in the season and then start to pick it up, which I think is still fine for the under 10.5 wins, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get it going in the postseason later.
I could so see it. Football is such a weird sport, man. We talk about teams going from worst to first all the time. It happens in the NFL more than you'd think. I just talked about it with the Bengals only a few minutes ago. Football is such a weird sport. Wouldn't it be something if the Ravens stink this year during the regular season? They go under their 10.5 wins. They don't win the division, but they just sneak into a wild card. Nobody wants them. Nobody believes. And then that's the time the Ravens actually fucking win something, when they don't have all the pressure, when they don't have the target on their back. Maybe that's when Lamar breaks through. Maybe that's when Lamar makes some throws in the playoffs. But let's see if they can get there. I still think they will. It's just not going to be as easy of a path as people are thinking.
It could be like the Bucs Super Bowl with Brady when they came out and they're getting smacked around by some teams, especially in prime time, and then they snuck into the wild card.
And, maybe that I hate to say this, but maybe that's what the Ravens need, man. Maybe they need to get slapped around a little bit early on in the season. Maybe they need to be kicked into gear a little bit, right? We've seen this Ravens team be a fucking wagon for the better part of the last decade since I've been following this team, right? They've been good. They've had Harbaugh. They've had Lamar carrying them in recent seasons. I mean, they've had great success. Maybe this team actually does something with Lamar and this regime when the people least expect it. I would never count out Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Okay, never. Talk about a guy who can motivate his squad to get them going after a couple tough weeks at the beginning of the season. Harbaugh. That's his fucking job. That's what he does. That's why the Ravens will never win shit when they're supposed to. It's got to be some Harbaugh, Ravens, Baltimore magic. And looking at how this division is going to play out this year, me and you picking the Bengals and the Browns, maybe it happens.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this year. We'll see. Either way, I think we can both agree this is the best division in football, even with the Steelers. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. NFC South, pretty good. You got the Panthers out there, Krabs.
Ooh, all right. Sure. And we'll talk about that more on the next pod. All right. All of our listeners out here, we will do a part 2 of this in the coming days. All right. So make sure you tap in, drop a follow, stick around, stay a while. Okay. Let's go over one more division here, Jovan. But before we do, are there any week 1 games that are standing out to you that you're looking at for the AFC North? I know the Browns play the Cowboys. Is there a chance we maybe see a potential upset there week 1?
Yeah, that game's going to be big. I think that is a game where we find out if this Browns defense is here to stay. And right now, I've every time I open an app, for whatever reason, this like last week and a half, my eyes immediately get to the Browns-Cowboys game. And I'm seeing that total 42.5, 42. And the Browns are like hanging, a field goal as favorites. That game is screaming to me that Dak and the boys, as high as I am on that offense, to be what they were, similar to what they were last year, I think we get a stamp to say that Browns shoved them in a locker. So I'm kind of excited to see that.
100%. I do think they'll pull off that upset. And guys, I think the Cowboys will be okay, but I think it's pretty safe to say it's okay to predict that they're going to get fucking destroyed early on in the season and figure it out as it goes. They got Mike McCarthy as their coach. They got Jerry Jones as an owner, and they're the Dallas fucking Cowboys. That's what they do. You think they're going to start out the season with a big-time win? Come on. I can so see the Browns stealing one there. All right, the Bengals. I mean, look, they're going to be the most popular Survivor pick, Jovan, maybe in the history of Survivor pools.
Literally.
The Bengals are like the only team in week 1 really laying more than a touchdown. They're the only team, betting aside, that really looks like the easiest play of week 1 to take for a Survivor pool. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to do everything in my power to not pick them for the Survivor pool in week 1 because, I mean, if we find a way to pick another winner and the Bengals somehow lose in week 1, I mean, we're literally going to win a Survivor pool. But you never want to be on the team that's the most popular, right? Because at some point that team will come crumbling down and they will cost you coins and kick you out of that Survivor pool. But we might not have a choice in week 1. I mean, they're playing the Pats. They're laying, that spread's going to keep moving up to damn near 10 by the time the game starts. Is it too easy, Jovan? Are you worried about the Bengals? I mean, they're certainly going to be the most popular pick this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even non-negotiable. I'm a little worried. I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't see a world where they lose that game. You know what this game reminds me? And I think this was the first game of last year's season 2, but it was on the road, so it's a little different. You remember that Eagles-Patriots game? Which I think they were in a very similar situation week 1, and I think it was raining, and like they ended up winning by some
Patriots
turnovers.
were getting 4 points, 4.5, something like that.
And then the Eagles won by like 5 or 6 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that game where I don't think it's going to be as easy as it seems. Like I could see a Patriots cover, but I would love to fade the Bengals and say they're going to have a chance to lose this game. I just don't see it. If there was at least like the Drake May aspect of like a little unpredictability in the offense, like maybe I could make that argument, but with it being Brissett, a guy who, I mean, the Bengals are a little familiar with themselves, it's tough. It's tough to get there.
Yeah, I just don't understand putting meat on tape for Brissett. You just drafted a QB. He's looked okay. Just put him out there and see what happens. Let him fucking learn on the fly.
I'm not against it, though, because, like, what is he going to learn at the end of the day? Like, he has the same issues that Mac Jones had. Like, he's got an extra weapon.
Well, then why did they draft him?
I mean, they should have. They should have drafted a little better / gone out and got some guys in free agency, but that's a conversation for another day. But my thing is just he still does not have like fantastic weapons. Like that team around him, the reason why everybody thinks they're going to be dog shit is because It's a lot
Who's he throwing
closer
the
to
ball
the
to?
same team. It's a lot closer to the same team last year than it should be, which is the problem.
Yep. I don't think anything's going to really change. I think they'll be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL once again, unfortunately.
Yeah, Brissett and May are both set up to fail.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm buying into this whole Mayo regime either, man. It just
Really?
I don't know if I'm buying in. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Thoughts on the Patriots' future? Briefly.
I mean, they got to show me that they have some direction. That's the thing. Because, like, I like the Mayo hire, and I think that can be fine. It's just beyond that and drafting a quarterback when you really had no other option. It doesn't seem like there's much else going on there. So, like, until they show me that, it's hard to be optimistic.
I'm with you. Yep. They might cover that spread, but they're probably not going to beat the Bengals. Maybe I'll just keep Cincy locked in my survivor pool and roll the dice.
Yeah.
That stresses me out, though. One more point about this conference or this division, excuse me, the AFC North. We got a Steelers Arthur Smith revenge game against the Falcons. Any chance we see him pull off a miracle upset?
There's always a chance because the Steelers, when they're plus chick in a weird game, that's when they show up. But
that is when they show up. Yep.
I don't think so in this game.
Okay.
Going to Atlanta when I guess the best part about the Steelers is they know how to game plan really well on defense. And it's kind of tough when there's all these added pieces in the Falcons offense, which I don't think it's going to be drastically different. I'm not on the same page as everybody else, but Kirk Cousins upgrade can't be understated. I mean, Bijan's going to be in a bigger role, you would hope. All fantasy owners are hoping, and I feel like that offense is just going to be so much better at the least. So, Arthur Smith revenge game probably not going to go well.
Yeah, no chance. Keep me as far away from the Steelers as physically possible, please. Thank you.
Yep,
they suck. But Mike Tomlin will find a way to win 8 games, like he always does. So annoying.
Yeah, maybe 9.
One more division to go over in the AFC, Jovan. Let's finish strong here. We've got the AFC South. I know you and me have some very strong thoughts on this division and some of the teams in here. Favorite one. Sure. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and give you the stage here, Jovan. Who is winning the AFC South?
The Jacksonville Jaguars. And I have some high hopes for them this season. Really high hopes because
all right.
This last year, like I was all over fading the Jags last year. And part of that had to do with the fact that we were not getting a healthy Trevor Lawrence. Part of it had to do with the fact that they were the team kind of in the Texans position this year. But like 2 years ago, they got into a really good run end of the season, second half of the season, got the crazy playoff win and come back against the Chargers. So everybody was expecting them to take that step next year. They didn't, and they found every single way possible. They reinvented ways to lose games and lose that division towards the end of the season. So we were fading them, all things considered. Now, coming into this year, I think we're getting a healthy Trevor Lawrence. I think we are getting this retooled wide receiver room, which I think is one of the deepest and one of the best in all of the NFL. I love the addition by subtraction of Calvin Ridley because he doesn't really fit in the way that they're using him in that offense. So they bring in a bunch of guys that I think are going to be great. I'm a big Brian Thomas believer. I'm a really big Christian Kirk guy, really big Gabe Davis guy, and the way they're going to use him too. So the focus on this offense is to stretch the field vertically, which that is more of what I think suits Trevor Lawrence. So like going full out air raid attack. So I'm really excited to see that all throughout this year. The defense is still a little bit of a question, but I think the offense is going to be so good that it's going to cover up a lot of those woes. So, like, I really, really like them to be one of those teams offensively that fantasy owners are going to love, bettors are going to love, and me as an investor in their overwins and division future, I sure as hell am going to love. So, feed me the Jags everything this year.
Okay. The Jags at plus 270 to win this division. Shocked you don't have the Texans, everybody's favorite team, everybody's future to win the Super Bowl, everybody's team to go undefeated this year and not have a single tough game or weekend, right?
Yeah.
Shocked you don't have the Texans and CJ Stroud on here. Well, I've got an even weirder pick for you guys because if you think I'm taking CJ Stroud and the Texans, you don't know me and you don't know ball. Go and give me the Titans at plus 1,000. Yep. I said it.
Insane.
Give me the Titans at plus 1,000 to win the division. Okay, I was just down in Nashville myself watching my Hokies lose in week 1 to Vanderbilt. So maybe this is a sign, probably a sign to shut the fuck up and stop giving out the Titans at plus 1,000, but I'm going to still give it here. I like this pitch. Okay, and I like this team. Talk about a team that has zero expectations. Talk about a team that nobody likes, nobody thinks is good, no pressure, right? So these guys stink. You got Will Levis, who's fucking putting mayo in his coffee and can't even get out on the field. He's so bad. And he's been sitting behind some veteran QBs, but now it's finally his time to shine. We'll see how it goes. Who the fuck wants to bet on Will Levis to do good things on a football field? Nobody. And let me remind you guys, when you bet on stuff that doesn't make fucking sense or that nobody wants to take, you make money. Okay? It's really that simple. Okay, and Will Levis and this Titans team, their offense is going to be significantly better in 2024 than they were in recent years. And I think this is a great value play at plus 1,000. Look, if I could take all 3 other teams in this division besides the Texans to win this division, the AFC South, I would lock in that future. And I'm sure there's a book out there that has that. Or you could just take all 3 other teams, sprinkle it, bet accordingly, whatever, scale it, and go about your day. But I'll tell you right now, the Texans are not winning this division. Jovan, the Texans aren't even making the playoffs. And this might surprise some people listening, but this Texans team, there won't be a squad that takes a bigger step back than Houston. Okay. Wow. The Titans are going to win the division at plus 1,000. Will Levis, I know you have him in your goat whale. He's going to have over 4,000 yards and absolutely carry this offense, air raid offense, if you will, that's got plenty of receiving core weapons that people are not talking about at all. D-Hop, he needs to get healthy and figure it out. Calvin Ridley is a deep threat that nobody's talking about either. They've got some pieces. Now let Levis cook. Okay, not a guy on earth who people believe in less than Will Levis and the Titans. And in a division that I think is wide fucking open that involves teams like the Texans, Colts, Jags, and Titans, I'm going to take my chances at the value play here. And I would not be shocked one bit if we see Will Levis carry this team, utilizing their offense, probably not relying as much on their defense, to the playoffs, winning the AFC South at plus 1,000.
It's a crazy take, but I love it. You know I'm a Levis guy too, and that offense is going to be exciting because I mean it's a straight air raid offense. I mean there's a reason why they brought in Brian Callahan. They also brought in Tony Pollard, which if you know anything about Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, they ain't in there to run the ball. They're there to be weapons in the pass game. So I mean Levis is going to be throwing it 40, 45 times a game, which is going to be super fun to watch. So, I mean, that alone brings variability on their side that I am absolutely in love with. I don't know if I'm in the same headspace as their ceiling of winning the division, but I love the nuts to give it out.
Jovan, there's not a team in football that spent more money this offseason than the Tennessee Titans. You know that?
Yeah.
Not a team in football. They're going to be over the luxury tax. They spent so much money. That's a good thing. Okay? That's a good thing because they realized they were in a terrible spot. They got rid of their coach. They're making some changes. They're putting in the young QB that they drafted. They're making moves. That's what you want to see from a team that's kind of struggling, right? You don't want to see a team just in the same spot for 30 years like the fucking Commanders were, since I was born. That doesn't do anybody any good. Make some moves, make some changes. The Titans go out. They spend more money than any other team in the NFL this offseason, and Lord knows they need it. That roster was fucking terrible. And I'm not saying they brought in the best guys. I'm not saying they brought in the best guys with the highest ratings on, Madden 25. They didn't. But they brought in a bunch of blue-collar guys who nobody believes in, blue-collar guys who have overperformed in recent weeks, recent seasons, like Tony Pollard, who you just mentioned. Who the fuck thinks Tony Pollard's going to do anything or have an impact on the Titans this season? Probably the only person on earth raising his hand right now. Me. Okay? I will raise my hands because this team has a bunch of dudes who nobody believes in can do shit, and an unbelievable underrated coach in Callahan, who I think is going to change this football team for the better. I was a Mike Vrabel guy, but the results don't lie, Jovan. The results don't lie, and he lost the locker room. It was pretty clear, right? They didn't give a fuck anymore. They were done.
Yeah.
I think Callahan is one of the better coaches in the NFL, and he's going to prove that this season. He's going to do wonders for this Titans team. And they've got a lot of guys in that squad that I believe in who might not be the highest rated dudes in Madden 25, but they certainly got heart and nobody believes in them. They got no pressure. That's the type of team that I want to back on. That's the type of team I want to bet with my hard-earned coins. The Titans.
Yeah.
Blue collar.
I will say this. The Brian Callahan hire very much gives me early vibes of Sean McVay in Los Angeles.
I love the hire for them.
Yeah, I love the hire, and I think eventually
a football family
will turn into something.
Yep. Coaching football family. I just think it fits like a glove. I would love to be a Titans fan right now. Love to be.
And that would be
Right.
so much more in if they were a little better on the trenches than both sides. That's the one part that does scare me a little bit, and they are going into the season a little injured. But I agree with you fully. Like guys like Calvin Ridley, everybody cannot stand him after last season in Jacksonville. This is a much better fit for him. And even like guys like Tyler Boyd, who they picked up. Like if you look at like what the Titans did in the offseason, you're talking about all the money they spent, whether it was Ridley, whether it was Boyd, whether it was, I think they got a Awuzie and L'Jarius Sneed too. Like if any other team did that, like if the Texans did that,
Dude.
if the Colts did that, if the Jags did that, they would be getting slurped.
Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit about these moves that they're making. They went out and traded for Sneed, and I haven't heard a single person talk about Sneed is one of the best fucking corners in football.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit. Nobody even knows that he's on that team. They traded for him from the Chiefs. God, this team is going to surprise some people this year. People think they're absolute quail meat. And trust me, they were. They were a hard watch. But it's a new regime in fucking Nashville right now. And I'm buying into Callahan. I'm buying into Levis. And I'm buying into this blue-collar team that nobody believes in, has no pressure. Watch out for the Titans this year. They're making the fucking playoffs. They might just win this division at plus 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last comparison I'll give. That team reminds me a lot of that last Jameis Winston Bucks team before we ended up getting Brady. It's like there was a lot of offensive upside because Jameis would sling that rock. The defense wasn't fantastic, but they made some ads that turned into really exciting guys and pulled off some very weird wins.
Yep.
So they seem pretty similar.
Dude, like they got bigger name guys on their defense too than people would expect. You got fucking Jeffrey Simmons, who's solid. I mean, you got Awuzie, you got fucking Quandre Diggs, Amani Hooker, Sneeds. Like they got guys. They got enough. Don't count out this team, bro. I'm telling you. Yeah. Callahan's going to change them, and they're going to carry this team in what I think is a very overrated division this season with the Texans. Okay, a team that I'm very low on. Maybe this is a good pivot here. There's not a guy in football who I want to fade more than CJ Stroud this season. And that's coming from me, the guy who said he's going to be a significantly better quarterback than Bryce Young. And people thought I was fucking crazy and had 100 eyeballs, right? Well, we're here, and now I want to fade CJ Stroud because he's coming into this season fat, happy, and complacent. Their schedule goes from the 4th easiest to 4th hardest in the NFL. That is brutal, and that means more than people think in the NFL. Their strength of schedule, it matters, and I'm fading them. And you can look at them adding pieces like Diggs and people thinking, holy shit, they got Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Diggs. I don't think it's a good thing they added fucking Diggs. We know Diggs is a notorious bitcher out there on the fields. We know Diggs is a drama queen. We know Diggs is a clubhouse issue, right? If that's not clear by now, I mean, my goodness, why the fuck did the Bills just let him go? I mean, give me a break. It's pretty fucking clear. And now you're bringing him into that receiving group. Imagine the bitching you're going to hear from them. Oh my God, I'd have to put earplugs in walking into the fucking wide receiver room meetings. Jesus, there's going to be bitching galore from all three of those guys. I want nothing to do with those three receivers. I want nothing to do with CJ Stroud, and I want nothing to do with this Texans offense this year because you got a bunch of good teams they're playing against for 2024, all having a whole season of film and a whole offseason to fucking break it down and figure out how to slow down CJ Stroud. I think it's going to be a sophomore slump. And I think he's coming into the season way too fat, happy, and complacent, hopping on all these podcasts, talking about how he's already pretty much the greatest fucking quarterback ever. You could just tell by how he's talking. He thinks he's fucking him already. Coming off a great rookie season. I don't blame him. But come on, man. Slow your roll. You're year one in. You guys haven't done shit. Bet this team to miss the playoffs at plus 150. Okay?
Wow.
Jovan. Last year, I got ahead of myself. I said, take the Eagles to miss the playoffs. And you guys all laughed at me. You said, that's the worst fucking bet ever. And you know what? I don't blame you. And it was a pretty fucking shitty bet. But I wasn't off by much.
You weren't.
I called that there was something wrong with the Eagles when everybody thought they were already going to the Super Bowl last year. Let's not forget how high everybody was on the fucking Eagles last season before it started. Give me a break. There was something off with them. Well, now this is my team this season, Jovan, that I think there's going to be something seriously off with a fat, happy, and complacent Texans team coming off their best season in years. Fade Stroud. I'm taking his under 31.5 touchdowns. That includes his passing and rushing. He had 3 last year. He's at 2.5 for this season. That's fucking bait, taking that over rushing touchdowns for him. He's not smacking that. So I'll take the 3 touchdown bolster there at his 31.5 number instead of taking his 28.5 passing touchdowns. I don't think CJ Stroud sniffs anywhere near 30 touchdowns this season. I think they might move the ball down the field, and I don't want to fade his passing yards, Jovan, because he might have some garbage time bullshit and be coming back into some games and some high-scoring affairs where he racks up the passing yards when it doesn't matter late. I don't want to fade him there. I want to fade him at finding pay dirt because he's going up against much better defenses and teams this season, night and day compared to his schedule last year where they just let him walk right into the fucking end zone. Red zone defenses, non-existent. Well, good luck this year going against those fucking teams, buddy. You got a hard-ass schedule, and you got a target on your back this season. Good luck.
Yeah, that he does. The schedule gets so much more interesting, which is the funniest part of it all. But I'm looking at it right now. There are only, 3 teams he played out of division with a winning record? The Ravens, the Steelers, and the Bucks. Yeah, welcome to the schedule this year, which includes, all of the best teams in the league. It's going to be a lot more difficult for CJ Stroud in that offense. And I do think there's definitely a step back that's going to be taken, but in reality, it's just you're facing harder competition and your big games, unlike last year when his big games were the Colts and Gardner Minshew in the last week of the season. It's, I don't know. Let's look at the Cowboys on Monday Night Football in Dallas. You play the Lions at home. You go to Kansas City. You play the Ravens the week right after that. Have fun.
Yeah. Fade the Texans this season. If that's not perfectly fucking clear, it's going to be rocket science with them trying to navigate their fucking schedule in 2024. Good luck, boys. Good luck, Stroud. You seem really locked in this offseason, my man, hopping on all the podcasts. Could not be less dialed. Could not be less dialed. Oh, but Stephon Diggs is coming in. Yeah, surely they win a Super Bowl, right? Yeah, he helped out a ton with the Bills, right? He helped them winning a bunch of games, right? No.
Sure.
No. That is not the piece they need to add. And seeing shit like that, additions like that, tells me that team is not moving in the right direction. Expect a huge step back from the Texans this year. I don't even have them making the playoffs, Jovan. Do you?
I think they can sneak in towards the end of the playoffs. I feel like your comparison to the Eagles was perfect, where they're going to have some regression this season, but kind of just barely make the cut as a wild card team and kind of bottom out from there. So that's what I see happening.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. You're going to see this team struggle at multiple different times this season, man. And sure, they might sneak into the fucking playoffs late, but right now I don't have them making it. How about that? I don't have them making it. Right now I've got the Titans from this division, and I'm also sending your Jags, and I want to make this perfectly clear. Do not let my crazy Titans take, which, by the way, it's not crazy and made up. It's 100% what I believe. If you couldn't tell watching me fucking talk about it, I can't help you. I'm literally going to have money on that. I don't want it to get swept about Jovan's Jags pitch here in this division. Okay, because that's also a great fucking angle, and I'm buying low on that Jags team as well with you this season. I think both those teams go to the playoffs, and I'm looking right here. I think you've only got the Jags going right now, but you would not be surprised if we see the Texans, kind of like the Eagles last year, limp into a postseason spot still, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I pretty much went over fading all the Texans guys. I like Stroud's less than 31.5 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs under 900 receiving yards, I think is a great look for the season. I'd be surprised if he hits anywhere close to 800. He's going to absolutely destroy that team, in my opinion. He is going to be the death of that team because he's going to be whining and bitching for the rock the entire time. And Nico Collins and Tank Dell, who you can make an argument that maybe Nico Collins is just as good at this point in his career, those guys are only going to get more pissed off hearing Stephon Diggs bitch on the sideline. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. I'd be fading all those dudes this season. Okay. The only thing I wouldn't fade is Stroud passing yards. Okay.
Sure.
Awesome. Let's move. Let's groove. We already talked about the Titans and gave the Levis slurpage as well here, Jovan. I know you're very high on Will Levis too. It wasn't just me on the Titans. Are we going to see the Colts potentially beat the Texans in week 1 this season, Jovan? What are your thoughts in that game?
Yeah, that's the one where I'm not all that thrilled to fade the Texans. Partially because I'm not a Colts believer. I'm not an Anthony Richardson believer. As somebody who's been around a lot of Florida fans for a while now, I've watched Anthony Richardson in college. I've watched him last year in the NFL. He's just not consistent enough as a passer for me. Now, like that Steichen system is literally beautiful, and it's going to lead to some really good days if you're a AR fantasy owner or anything like that. But it's tough because, I mean, they're the only team not named the Giants who is a home dog in week 1, which is, I don't know, a scary team to back, even though, like, the Texans are going to be getting pelted with bets and probably be one of, if not the most public sides in the NFL. So,
Yup.
I'm not thrilled to do it. I'll say that.
I know. I feel like I'm legally obligated to probably take the Colts in that spot, but I feel you. I feel you there. I get that. Maybe this is not the spot to fade the Texans yet, but I don't think I'm going to have a choice, man. I'm probably going to have to buy into Anthony Richardson, who's been terrible this fucking preseason as well. The Colts have looked so bad. That's the one thing maybe keeping me on the Colts in this spot is, I mean, it's not like the Colts look great in the preseason. They look like the worst team in football. Anthony Richardson looked terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
I think it's still the Colts, but I'm with you. Maybe that's not the spot to fade the Texans yet. Okay. Could we see the Titans beat the Bears in week 1? Could we see Levis defeat Caleb Williams? No chance we see Mayo McGee, Will Levis, putting fucking mayo in his coffee before games, beating Caleb Williams, generational talent, number 1 QB. No chance, Jovan. No
There's
way.
A possibility, Krabs.
No way.
Although we talked, and I tried so hard to find this exact number, but as much as we talked about the Super Bowl winner or the Super Bowl loser, struggling week 1, the number 1 pick in week 1 is also something that has not been very profitable taking ATS. And I honestly think that line at 4.5 for the Titans on the road against the Bears, who are, some could argue, the most improved team of the offseason, feels a little short. So, I mean, the thing with the Titans that I love so much about them is the system, but also the system kind of lends itself to unpredictability and a lot of variance because they're going to put up a lot of points and they're going to get splash plays and be explosive. So that Bears defense is damn good and going to be hard to crack at home for the entirety of the season. But week 1, that's a sneaky spot to at least keep it within 4 or a field goal. That feels like it. If you're obligated to take the Colts, I feel like I am obligated to take the Titans.
You know, those fucking videos of the coaches getting held back on the sidelines when they're yelling at the refs, and they got the guy's literal job on the sidelines is to hold this dude back and grab the back of his polo, make sure he doesn't literally kill the referee. The get back guy. Jovan, you might need to be my get back guy and make sure I don't put every dollar that I have to my name on the Titans in this spot. I might need a get back guy and make sure I don't put more than 2-3 units on this play because it's still week 1 of NFL and I'm getting excited here. But there's no world where I'm not putting a couple sneak units on the Tennessee Titans against the Bears and Caleb Williams in his first NFL game. Are you fucking crazy? I mean, that's a spot made in heaven. Heaven. A team that everybody thinks is absolute dog shit. Will Levis's Titans going to play the Bears and Caleb Williams and that generational team. Not only did they add Caleb Williams, but my God, have you seen what else they've added, Jovan? They've added this, they've added that. They got a running back now. They got a better O-line. They've added pieces on defense. They made trades with the Commanders last year. You get Sweat, one of the most sleeper, sneaky good D linemen in football, right? They got all these pieces, all these fucking guys. And they're only laying 4 to the Titans? What the fuck? What's going on here? Something feels off. Interesting. Yeah, it might be Titans ML.
Yeah, might be a little Tyler Boyd legacy game loading. Can already see it.
Might be square over, points, just offenses going back and forth. Caleb Williams just at the end of the game, just struggling, trying to keep his team in it, just driving down the field with some crazy last-second scores. I could see it like it was yesterday. It'll probably be one of the better games of the weekend, to be honest with you. It'll be just an absolute shootout, close, back and forth, mistakes, turnovers, you name it. They'll have it in this game. That's going to be must-see TV. Any chance the Jags beat the Dolphins on the Reds in week 1, Jovan?
I think there's a chance. And for that game specifically, I am going to be locked in because there's not any better chance to show me off the rip that this offense that I am buying so much stock into because they're going to push the ball downfield. They have these receivers. What better chance to do it than against the Dolphins defense and the Dolphins secondary that does not really scare me all that much. So, I mean, that is probably going to be one of the more, squared overlooks of the weekend. And regardless of if it actually does end up going over or under, I think it's going to get damn close at the least. So I think you're going to find out very quickly whether this Jags offense is for real. And I think it is. So I think there's a shot they catch Miami in Miami week 1, even though the Dolphins, they're an early season team. We know that. They come out to play early and then fold towards the end of the season.
Well, they need all their guys healthy, too. They play every single fucking player on the roster. They need everybody healthy. That's how they win. They win with depth.
Also true.
I love what the Dolphins are doing. Don't get me wrong. I think McDaniel's a fucking genius. I think if he could just focus on being an offensive coordinator, as much as I hate to say it, I feel like he could lead a team to have the best offense in the NFL. Pretty much anywhere he is. He is an absolute genius. I love what he's doing. I like that, in a time where injuries are so prevalent and they're only getting worse, he relies on depth and he relies on leaning into playing all of his guys. And that's only going to be more of a point of emphasis down the line. Like, I got no qualms with the Dolphins or McDaniels. It's just that their defense is fucking dog shit. And guys like Xavier Howard, who have carried them at times, being the only good player on the fields, these guys have lost their fastball. And I think that defense is really going to hold back the Dolphins this season. I would not be shocked one bit if we see the Jags go in there and win outright in, once again, another high-scoring affair. Now, it's week one. I don't love taking overs in week one. That might be what holds me off of it, but you could definitely see some points in that game as well. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that scares me a little bit is their offense. The defense is still kind of a work in progress. Like, getting the Dolphins week one, not fantastic, but I want to see the offense. I feel like this is your come and show me moment. I think people and fantasy managers for that matter are going to take note of what the Jags do week one on offense.
Sure. Brian Thomas Jr.
Hey,
2 words, chat.
Not just him.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Brian Thomas capped off with some Evan Ingram tutties, and of course, a little Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis sprinkled in.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you need to do any more Jags glazing before we move here?
I can't do enough glazing, Krabs. It's a lot to go around because they got so many guys. I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see this offense surprise some people this season. And I want to say this once again, Doug Peterson, that son of a bitch, that guy just finds ways to win games as well. So unfortunately, watching him coach the Eagles and getting disrespected and shit on and people acting like Sirianni was already a better coach off the rip. How do you think those people are feeling now? Because what has Sirianni brought for them? Nothing. What did Peterson bring for them? Oh, a Super Bowl with Carson fucking Wentz and Nick Foles. Give me a break. That's the kind of guy I want to back. He's a winner. I don't care what team he's coaching. The Jags, sure. Sign me up. I'm in. I'm a Peterson guy. Hate to say it, but like that team, and I like the Jags at plus 270 to win the division. I'll just take a little more value with the Titans at plus 1,000. Okay. Awesome. Well, that's enough AFC South glazing. Clearly, we're both pretty down on the Texans. Are you as down on the Texans as I am? I feel like I made it very clear, but maybe for the people listening, they need to hear your thoughts on the Texans to see if I'm sane or not.
I'm kind of in between. I'll be fading them a lot when they get in those tougher games late in the season. Like, I do like their under wins. Like, I like the Jags to win the division, obviously. But I think they sneak into the playoffs just barely. I don't think they're going to do all much after that. Like, I think everybody seems to think their ceiling is Super Bowl, Stroud MVP. I'm nowhere close to that, but I'm closer to your side.
All right. Fuck the Texans. That's the team that I am the lowest on this upcoming season. They are my Eagles. They are my team that everybody loves that I'm fading. We'll see how it plays out. Okay. Awesome. Let's move. Let's groove. We talked plenty about all 4 divisions in the AFC. Jovan, before we wrap up here, I got to ask you the most important question of the podcast. Okay. Who is winning the AFC in 2024? Who do you got?
I think it's the Chiefs, but I can't come on here and just say the Chiefs are going to win the AFC after back-to-back Super Bowls. Give me a break. The only teams to beat the Chiefs, I mean, whether you want to go AFC or you want to go just in general, they've been teams that have come out of nowhere and had crazy seasons. Like, it's never been like the co-favorite, like the Ravens were last year. Those teams, whenever they're not led by Brady, have not been the teams to do it. It's been like the Joe Burrow Bengals that have done it and got to the Super Bowl. So I think you need a crazy team to come back and do it. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars to be that team to do it. You're going to need something crazy, and I am right on the strip of crazy.
Well, Jags plus 23 Honda. First off, that's serious value, so congratulations. Second off, Peterson, like I just talked about earlier, I am in. You've seen him get there before. He's done it before. He's led men there before. Who's to say he can't make it happen again in an offense that has plenty of talent? It all comes down to fucking Trevor Lawrence. Figure it out, buddy. This is your year. Okay, you have plenty of weapons. You have a doable schedule. You have a doable division. You have a good coach. and you're on a team that could not be more fucking due to do something in the Jags. This is their season, Jovan. I'm with you. I love the pick. Plus 23 hundo. You kidding me? I mean, look, we can't just sit up here and take the Chiefs. Like you said, What kind of podcast would that be? What fun would that be?
Yeah. I mean, in
How about the Jags?
In reality, like the Chiefs are probably going to take it. It's hard to bet against them, but all we can do is sit up here and bet against them. That's what we're here for. Sure.
Well, I'll tell you right now, there's no way in fuck the Chiefs win the Super Bowl for a third straight year. I will go ahead and make that statement for you. There's no way they do it. If they do, I will eat my words. I will buy a Mahomes Chiefs jersey, and I will wear it every game during the Commanders games for the following season if they win the Super Bowl again this year. Yep. Go ahead and clip that. Get that ready, Gucci. We might need it. The Chiefs are not winning a third in a row. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody will ever do that because that is just absurd. That's like landing on 10 greens in a row at the roulette table. You could say it's individual, but it's still fucking batshit crazy, and it's not going to happen. Okay? If an NFL team wins 3 straight Super Bowls, I will be extremely shocked, and I will eat my words, and I'm not as sharp as I think. Okay? I need to see that happen because that is absurd. I'm not buying it. I think they'll take a step back. Can they rely on their defense like they did last year so much to win them games? I don't know. But they were so impressive. We'll see. Jovan, you went with the Jags. Okay, I'm not going to go with the Chiefs either. I feel like I made that perfectly clear. I have them not winning the Super Bowl, and I do not have them winning the AFC either. I've got the Bengals winning the AFC at plus 700. Okay, this Bengals team is going to prove people wrong. This Bengals team is going to put people on notice once again. It's been a while. Okay, we haven't seen a healthy Joe Burrow out there. And we've never seen Joe Burrow behind an offensive line this good. I cannot wait. Joe Burrow's been waiting patiently for this. Joe Burrow is a guy who I used to fade, bet against at the end of his time in college, early on in Cincy. You know what I learned, Jovan? The Bengals don't give a fuck what is sharp or what's not. Joe Burrow wins football games. Unless there's fluke shit. Okay? Unless there's fluke shit. And that counts for injuries, but after a couple bad injury-strucken seasons, Jovan, I think this is the year you buy low on the Bengals, and you buy low on Burrow, and you buy low on that offense that we've seen be the best in football at times in recent years, but we forget so quickly because they fell off so fast. I'm buying low on that Bengals O-line that'll be the best Joe Burrow's ever had. I'm buying low on that D-line that has some guys as well, and I know their secondary is not elite. Their defense isn't great. They're not, top 10 in the NFL yet, but I think their defense will be average. They'll be good enough. But I got a weird feeling about Joe Burrow making a run this season at plus 700 to win the AFC, and I will have money on it. I'll be back in the Bengals to not only win the AFC at plus 700, Jovan, but also to win the Super Bowl. That's my team this season. Okay? Wow. I'll go ahead and say it right now. I'll spoil it. Yep, I'll do it. The Bengals are winning the Super Bowl this year. They're finishing what they started only a few years ago, and we forget so quickly how elite that offense was. They're going to show you again. Just watch. Okay? W's. Fuck the Chiefs. I think for all of our mental healths, we need to see them lose this year after them taking thousands of dollars from us in the Super Bowl against the 49ers. Okay? Jovan, any other parting words before we move on from the AFC?
I don't think so. I think we got to pretty much all of it.
Sure. W's. Well, I hope everybody listening enjoyed this NFL pods. Okay, we will have the NFC pod coming out here only in a couple of days. Okay, so stay tapped, drop a follow. Make sure you drop a like on YouTube as well and leave in the comments, like I said earlier, who you think is winning the AFC in 2024. All right, let us know in the comments. We appreciate all you guys listening. Make sure you follow us on the Bookit Sports Podcast Network on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your pods. And tune in during the week on the Bookit Sports YouTube and Twitch, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, if you need some winners, because we got them. All right, let's absolutely kill it this football season, Jovan. We'll be back here in a couple days with the NFC preview, but for now, we'll go ahead and leave it as is. Close out the AFC. We'll be back with the NFC only in a matter of days. Jovan, I'll meet you at the cash counter when the Bengals win the AFC and go on to the Super Bowl. We'll be.
We'll be.
Peace.